just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast, where we currently sit at 100 and Oiler legend Ryan Smith of podcast. We want to get to 200 here. So help us get to 200. Click that. If you go onto the YouTube there and you just stop it, and then you see the subscribe button there, Tyler, right? You just hit the subscribe, and then boom, you're subscribed. You can also hit that thumbs up there, and then boom, you've liked the video, and you're just on your way. That's
you needed the telestrator with that, and that would have been perfect. Yes, a nice little tribute there to John Madden, who of course last week passed away at the age of 85. Famous NFL Hall of Fame NFL coach and broadcaster.
Yes.
So, and yes, of course, Kevin and I, being either currently or formerly in the broadcasting biz, have a great admiration for John Madden.
Yes, we just because of the broadcast industry, I just needed to do that for him. But Tyler, I believe that this is an historic moment. I do not believe you and I have just done a podcast or started without a run-in from anybody else.
It's too bad though that your picture and audio are way out of sync, though. I don't know if you're seeing that on your end, but I am on mine. So I don't know. Maybe the masses are seeing it in sync, but
you're in
we got
sync.
Two of the three. You're better now.
Okay.
We'll see. Yeah, no, you're matching up now. That was strange. 2022 is off to an odd start, even on this show.
We're off to a great start. Yeah, 3 days into 2022.
That's right. 2 of the 3 OGs on this show so far. We'll get the third one here momentarily. I believe he'll be joining us here not too long from now, that being Sean. Happy New Year to you, Kevin. Hopefully the holiday season was great to you, and you're not freezing too much there down in Vancouver. We've been in the deep freeze up here for weeks. We had a really significant snowfall on New Year's Day and still cleaning up from that. Now it's getting cold again. Another Arctic outflow warning in effect until Thursday. And the fine folks of Metro Vancouver skating on ponds, snow staying on the ground. You're getting the full Canadian winter experience just like the rest of us.
We did. Yes, it was a white Christmas. I have never seen snow this long here in my 6 years in Vancouver. I never saw that. And it was a little cold. The traffic was quite something out there during the holiday season, like just lots of stalls and spin outs and all that sort of stuff. And it was a good holiday. Kind of just finally got a little bit of relaxing in, and it's warmer today. I think we're going to get more snow though. So we're not quite out of this yet, but you had an avalanche out there, didn't you?
Or
an avalanche warning?
We do control work. Yeah, there was a high hazard which closed Highway 16 from Terrace to Prince Rupert for quite a length of time there on the night of the 1st, I believe. It's all blurring now. Right now, it's still that time of year where the days are blurring. But yes, the weather conditions and then the sudden change and the snow coming with that brought the higher avalanche hazard. But unfortunately, there was a small deposit. Apparently, I had heard. I didn't see myself, but that a vehicle got stuck in. Everybody was okay. The vehicle was fine. Just just enough snow there that the vehicle could not drive through it. So if you're watching this, and hey, just a tip for all motorists: if you encounter a snow avalanche on the highway, do not attempt to drive through it because it's probably deeper than you think it is.
Yes, wise
And then you
words.
get stuck and get caught in danger. So don't do that.
Just
Yes.
kind of stay there.
Absolutely.
It's been it's been an interesting 2022 so far. Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you.
It still feels like I'm in New Year's mode, but tomorrow because today was kind of a holiday. Wasn't today a holiday? It felt like a busy day.
Yeah, stat day in lieu for some, although I guess it depends on the workplace. I've heard a number of places where they let their employees have the day off on Friday instead of today, and so they're working today. So really just depends on where you're working. But in our business and highway maintenance, when it's storming on the holidays, there's not a full amount of holidaying to be had, unfortunately.
No, fair enough. Well, we're glad you're here. And Sean will be joining shortly. Chris is unable to make it. Chris is still fighting the COVID a little bit, and Devin is having bandwidth issues. So
yeah,
Devin will join us. Devin will be joining us with chat. I think he's still in Ontario, I believe.
Oh, geez,
I
that's
guess,
a fun place to be these days, eh?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Just read the news if you're wondering what we're referring to.
That's not for this podcast.
No.
We're not going to touch that at all. But let's look back. Maybe we'll start just with a quick look back of last year. Some of the biggest stories. Obviously, COVID. I mean, that's the no-brainer. But some of them, in my mind, I think the and I mean, both of us being in the media industry, maybe this hit us more. But I do think that this was probably, I would have to say, the second biggest story in the NHL is ESPN and TNT getting the broadcasting rights. I think that was a very significant move. We saw TNT do their first Winter Classic with Kenny Albert and Keith Jones and Darren Pang freezing right in between there. Eddie Olczyk was not able to be there. We've seen sort of the impact that ESPN has had already with John Tortorella and his comments on Conor McDavid. We may touch on that a little bit later as the tire fire has moved to northern Alberta anyway. But I would think that was probably the second one. I think the Canucks management changes, I think maybe for us, this is another one that I think maybe hits too close to home in some ways, but I think overall, I think it made national attention. I think TSN 1040 closing shop and TSN across Winnipeg and Hamilton. And I had the Jack Eichel trade and as some of the bigger stories did. Would you add anything to that or?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the biggest. I didn't realize this was a homework assignment here. Put together a list.
It was in the agenda.
Yeah. I guess reading
I'm
that
going to be grading you now, Tyler. Let me get my notes out.
You should all know I give it a token look and then kind of just go from there. But in the U.S., the change in broadcast rights fairly big, significant because not only the additional money that is pumped into the NHL's coffers with ESPN and Turner Sports getting involved, but also a bit surprising that NBC walked away from it and didn't want to spend any more. And I know they're very committed with the Olympics and the National Football League and some other sports properties, which are quite big there in the United States, some golf, and so they walked away from the NHL. And I thought, frankly, NBC did a pretty good job of it. Turner, I think they're understanding from their NBA experience that they're an entertainment network so much as a sports network. ESPN didn't really bring over a lot of the old NBC people. They've kind of done most of it with what they've had. They have brought over a few people they didn't have on hockey or in their other fold already, such as Cassie Campbell, and then they brought Brian Boucher and AJ Malesko over from NBC. But some names from the past that were doing hockey, like Steve Levy and Sean McDonough, getting that voice again, calling hockey on a national level in the U.S. Up here, I think the one that's definitely the most fascinating and really hard to pinpoint as to, was it just the pandemic and needing to cost cut, or was that kind of inevitable already? But the death of some sports radio stations, the movement of some pretty strong talent over to independent ventures, whether those are podcasts or a combination of podcast and live stream, or in the case of Don Taylor and Rick Dollywall partnering up with Czech Television. So there, that big shift in the media landscape on both sides of the border. But I think a more fascinating one up in Canada to see. How quickly a bunch of big names lost their jobs and then landed on their feet doing things on their own.
Yeah. You had the Bob McCallum podcast. You've had others do that as well. Just Sakaris and Price, Donnie and Dolly for sure.
Other places, Brent Wallace, he's teamed up now with Mark Mathot to do their weekly show called Wally and Mathot, and a lot of sponsors lining up for that one as well, I've noticed, and some great guests and high production quality. So the future is here when it comes to independent sports media.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about how the TS 1040 hit us here in Vancouver, but Winnipeg lost their sports radio station, and pretty much all of those guys have now got some sort of podcast. You got Hustler doing Winnipeg Sports Talk. You got the Kenny and Rennie show as well. So yeah, it's becoming a nationwide. I think it's becoming quite fascinating, and the sponsors are lining up. It's very interesting how that is changed up there. Yeah, and I guess I put the Eichel trade probably ahead of a couple of other things because I think that was such a significant story. It hit Calgary as they were part of the rumors for a while. Although we discussed it, I don't think it was a realistic option.
No.
But there were so many other things that happened in there, and I think the underlying story in that is Eichel ultimately getting the surgery that he wanted. And then, of course, Canucks management change. I think the other significant story I did forget, we cracking the expansion, I think, is an interesting story, but I think the whole Chicago Blackhawks Kyle Beach revelation, I think, just from an emotional perspective, I think that probably hit everyone the hardest for sure.
In terms of, lasting impacts on what goes on behind the curtain in hockey anyways, but I think in other sports, that one's certainly the biggest wake-up call for people, and memories are short, so hopefully, what Kyle went through and his courage to come out and identify himself and talk about it, hopefully that continues to have an impact, because there's been stories from the past of sexual abuse and things being hidden and all that, and then as the years go by, it kind of starts to get forgotten about, so we'll see how it goes in this case, but that definitely the impact of how all that came about was felt right across the sport.
Yeah, and certainly felt very emotional there. Yeah, that was 2021. It was a bit of a tire fire. Hopefully 2022 is better overall. We won't have the NHL and the Olympics. I think there's still a lot of things up in the air. But and we've got all these postponed games that we need to make up. I think it's going to be. I think at the very least, we'll address this in a second. I think we're in for a very fascinating second half of the season in the National Hockey League. Very interesting how teams are strategizing right now. But before we get to that, I think the other story was the IIHF. And their handling overall of both the men's and women. I put this together as two. Of course, they used the word canceled. They came out with the explanation of why they used canceled. For the women's tournament, they did a canceled ultimately, unfortunately and sadly for many involved, canceled the men's junior tournament right through. Halfway through, as there were teams forfeiting games, having to forfeit games. The U.S. had to forfeit a game, Sweden had to forfeit a game, and Russia had to forfeit a game. And I think that they decided that was enough. We can't do this anymore. We're going to cancel it. And now decisions on whether or not this is being made, but what were your thoughts on how all of that was handled, and what would you like to see going forward?
Well, I would like to see all attempts being made to have those tournaments still. I mean, we look what happened with the Women's World Championship. Hockey Canada and the city of Calgary, they got together and did the bubble there at Winsport and made it happen in the summertime. And hopefully that can happen for these other tournaments. But a lot was made about, you wouldn't do this with the men and canceling the women and stuff. I mean, I get the cynicism, but the big moneymaker events for the IIHF are the Olympics, the Men's World Championship, and the World Junior Tournament. That's just the reality of the situation. So there's more. The economics are different there. There's more money that people are willing to fork out for that, and those money-making events then help the IIHF fund the other smaller events. So that's why the World Juniors happened in a bubble last year, right? There was that willingness to spend that kind of money. The bubbles are very expensive to run. You had a jurisdiction that was willing to do it. Just really disappointing for the folks in Red Deer. I mean, this is an international event that they were getting to host, and they've come under a lot of fire for causing the tournament to be canceled, and it's not really fair. I mean, there were positive tests in the Edmonton side of the tournament as well. I guess the main criticism is that the IIHF didn't seem to be prepared for a plan B had a COVID outbreak occurred. When the plans were put together, there wasn't a problem, and then or not enough of a problem for them to change their plans. And then just as teams are starting to arrive, Omicron is spreading like crazy, and there were no contingency plans. So the lack of a contingency plan from a body of that size that's quite stunning to see, I think. But once you had teams forfeiting games and the integrity of the tournament was in question, it's probably the right move to just shut it down, get everybody home safely, and try and do it again some other time.
Yeah, I flip back and forth because I'm with you, Tyler. I think ultimately the IIHF, I mean, there should have been some contingency plan in place. I mean, we are still in a pandemic. We need to expect that there would be cases. But this, and even though that there was the variant and there was warning of it, it just, the way it struck everything all at once, I think threw everybody off. It even threw off the NHL because, I mean, you want to, I want to be careful how I say this. With these tournaments, I think you want to do all you can to get these tournaments done. And I say that not only the IIHF, I say that not only with the NHL, but you look at the Max Major and some of these other tournament, junior tournaments or bantam tournaments that are out there that have been unfortunately canceled throughout Canada and the US because of the Omicron. You want to make sure that at the very least you try all you can before you just say, well, there's too much. But at the same time, it's about safety. I don't envy the decisions that these people are being paid to make, because I don't know if I think that you're going to get criticized either way.
Oh yeah. There's definitely those separate camps of public opinion where it's like shut it all down. It's the easy route. Let's just do that. And then there's the other approach of we've got to try, but the gotta try brings other consequences as well. So, I mean, where I sit is I think they're doing too much testing, because I don't think cases is the issue. It's who's ending up in the hospital is the issue, and I think that's what's leaving people with a sour taste in their mouths around the World Junior Tournament, because it didn't. We don't know for sure how everybody's doing now, but it didn't seem like at the time that the people that tested positive were all that sick. Yeah, they were a little bit sick, but there's no easy answers there, though. I'm not saying that's the right approach to take. It's just that's kind of where I stand on it.
Yeah, it's a very difficult. It's a difficult situation. I have flipped back and forth on this because I can see both sides. What I hated was the idea that there would be a forfeit, and I think one of the things that maybe has to be looked at is either you extend this tournament to allow for these games to be played and anticipate the fact that there probably could be some cancellations due to COVID. if this is something that you're taking seriously. But I think, and unfortunately, that for I think I think the big things just from the men. We'll get to the women part in a second. For the men's part, the thing that I think hurts junior hockey specifically, and specifically the Western Hockey League, is this became a coming out party for Conor Bedard. The last game, I mean, yes, it was Austria, but he scored 4 goals. He was the talk of that game, and it was an opportunity. You've got the TSN has the CHL broadcasting rights, so it would have been a natural fit to watching Conor Bedard and some WHL hockey. I think that from that perspective, it hurt. But I mean, they had to make the safe decision there as well. But that part is really unfortunate for the WHL, because it was a great opportunity to have the superstar of the league, the guy that everybody is paying attention to, Conor Bedard, on getting some national coverage.
Yeah. Yep.
But
look who's here. As we welcome in Sean.
Well, look at this.
I am here.
You are here.
And you're early. You said that you would be scheduled for 8:00 Pacific, or after 8. So
no mountain, Kevin. Mountain.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 8:00. Yeah, sorry, 7:00 Pacific, 8:00 Mountain.
Where's Brian Williams when you need him to straighten out?
I know.
I wasn't sure how late how long the shutdown at work would have taken. So, luckily enough, it took a little bit shorter than I expected.
Yeah, we've just kind of been rambling on about the big things that happened in hockey and hockey media in 2021, and just finishing up here on the unfortunate cancellation of the World Junior and other IIHF events.
Yeah, the Conor Bedard coming out party got shut down, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that does hurt the WHL, because I mean, it's as I'm not sure if you heard, Sean, but he's you had TSN having the CHL rights. That was a natural fit. And we were just about to get in for the women, but maybe just to step back here for a second, if you don't mind, Tyler. Sean, what were some of your bigger stories of 2021? And Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year to you, Kevin, you, Tyler.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's see here. I'm going to avoid saying anything pandemic related, because I'm done with that shit.
That's the story, but so maybe that's.
Well, we've got Bruce. There it is. You've got the big move there is the changing of the guard with the Canucks. So Jim Benning, John Weisbrod out, Jim Rutherford and Bruce Boudreau in. I think that's huge. That's a big story, especially for all Canucks fans. Yeah, the World Juniors being canceled, unfortunately. That's another big story. Trying to think here. Back-to-back cups for the Lightning. Like, I think they deserve a lot of credit, even though it was how many $1 million over the cap were they? But it's still one of the toughest, if not the toughest, trophy to win in all of sports, with the four best of 7 series you have to win to get to even win it, even if you're the President's Trophy winner or whatever. So they still deserve a lot of credit for doing it in back-to-back years, and lots of turmoil and unknowns with the ongoing incident that will not be named. I might call it now. Team Canada, the women's Team Canada winning the World Championships for the first time in how many years?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 8. It feels like
something like that. It's been a long time, and basically Marie-Philippe Poulin basically showing off, just confirming that she's like the most clutch hockey player, at least in this generation.
Yeah, it's amazing. She just keeps doing it.
Yeah, maybe you got Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams, who can probably be the only person who could come close to the amount of clutch goals that Marie-Philippe Poulin has scored in her career. So but I think honestly, for the biggest one and the one we talked about the most was the turmoil that the Canucks were in with you go all the way back to the beginning of the season of last season, where they had JT Miller and Jordy Ben out with COVID to start the season. They never could get their footing in that season. Then they had that massive COVID outbreak, probably the worst in terms of not only numbers but severity in all of North American sports, at least. And then they make the big OEL trade. They bring back Travis Green, and then beginning of December, it's complete turn the switch. It's time for a new voices, and Bruce, there it is. They're 8-0-1.
Well, don't forget they signed Travis Green to an extension after the whole controversy about signing Travis Green to the extension too. So that's the other element of that. I wonder if the Dallas Stars may challenge the COVID severity, because they had half of their staff they just took off of COVID protocol. I'm not sure how severe it was.
But I think that's what I'm getting at, Kev. It's not necessarily just the numbers, but how sick a lot of the players got in the Canucks outbreak. Significantly worse than what we're seeing now with at least with everything now. So
Yeah, and Brandon Sutter's still not playing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you had the whole Travis Hamonic situation as well.
It was a year, Kevin. It was a year.
I felt December was a year, but I mean the entire year was a year in and of itself. Maybe the year was a century. But
my Christmas break was a year.
I just felt like. Yeah, the only ones I would add, we talked about the TNT ESPN deal. We talked about TSN 1040 in Vancouver. The rights.
Was that 20? No, that wasn't 2021, was it?
Yes, it was.
Oh God.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay, the last year was a decade. I'll rephrase it. Last year, 2021 was quite the decade.
Well, it's weird, right? Like time does seem to fly even faster as we all get older, but yeah, you try to think back to last January and NHL teams were preparing for this new divisional format where they were only playing the 6 or 7 other teams and there weren't going to be fans, and man, that does seem like so long ago. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yep. It's that was 2021 pretty much. I mean, and then the Jack Eichel trade scenario. I mean, although it involved Calgary, it was never going to involve Calgary. We had the Kraken. I think the Kyle Beach situation and all of that involved in that. I mean, I guess the other one, the Montreal Canadiens situation. Montreal Canadiens drafting Logan Mailloux, the OHL reinstating Logan Mailloux, which is not on a lot of people's radar, but that is causing some friction. So there's still a lot to really talk about, I guess. But
as I said, 2021 was quite the decade.
Yeah. But now we flush it and we look optimistically towards 2022, although off to a bit of a bumpy start here with the pandemic screwing up sports for a lot of people. I'm going to say I'm confident by a month from now we'll be on a pretty good path here.
It kind of, I know that I know it's maybe easier to be a doomsdayer out there on the Twitterverse, Tyler, but I'm kind of with you. You hear from Bill Daly today. Daly said that he doesn't anticipate there's going to be a lot more postponements for attendance in Canadian cities. I would think that, Daly is in a pay grade that he probably knows some more information that us three know.
Yes.
I'm just going to assume that.
Yeah.
So I kind of, it's a bumpy road, but I don't know if it's going to be a long, bumpy road. Even the way that even some of these decisions are being made and sort of the length of it, it doesn't feel like March 2020. It just feels like, okay, this is just a pause for a moment, and it feels like just, the severity of Omicron. I mean, it's for the most part. I want to be careful how I say it, but it doesn't feel like it's as long as what others were. Touch wood. I mean, we are getting rapid cases, but it feels like people are bouncing back quite quickly. So it feels like we'll get back to some sort of, I'm using air quotes there for people that are listening, normal quicker.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how things go here, but there was a lot of NHL hockey postponed because of positive tests. But I mean, most of the players affected have come back and seemingly been okay. This wasn't like pre-vaccination where you had guys getting very severely sick and having long-term consequences in some cases, and it seems to be a different situation to try and manage around this time, and one that hopefully won't take nearly as much time to sort through. So and let's remember, I mean, this time of year, it's cold, it's miserable. People are spending a lot of time inside where it's very easy to pass around the sickness. And, we see that all the time, pre-pandemic at this time of year, a lot of people down for the count with different illnesses. So, um, hopefully by middle of February and things are starting to warm up, things will be much better that way. And with spring getting closer, more positive feeling amongst people.
Yeah, I think just from a hockey strategic perspective, I heard a little bit of Kevin Woodley this morning. Right now, it's kind of shinny a little bit. We're seeing a lot of high scoring games. Florida beat Tampa 9-3, as an example. We had an 8-7 game. It's getting a little. Even the Seattle Kraken scored 4 goals, which they usually only do in a month. So to do that in one game for them is quite impressive. There. So in terms of getting the teams back to kind of some sort of footing, I think that's interesting. And I think it's interesting with the postponed games how teams are looking at their situations in terms of playoffs. The Calgary Flames have played 11 home games so far this year. And I mean, it's not necessarily that they have the best home ice advantage and that, they're missing home, because they seem to be a better road team than home team. But that it's just interesting to think how people are going to be looking at that situation. Like, Vancouver, in Edmonton, and a lot of these teams, there's games in hand. So it's just interesting to see where people are at in terms of the playoff race.
Mm-hmm.
11 out of 30 games they've played it at home for the Flames. At this point, if you're putting any stock into how many home games or road games that you have left, I think that's premature, and I think that that's going to lead to bad decisions if you're going to make any drastic decisions about it. But going into the end of the season, when we've got Canadian teams having home games postponed due to capacity issues, how many home games are they going to have at the end of the season? And is that like when you're coming up, like that could be a bit of a potentially a bit of a competitive advantage for those teams in April. And
yeah, as long as they don't have their playoff hopes sunk by all these road games that they got to play right now, right?
Because that's the other, and that's why I'm saying
I think if you wanted one way or the other, it's nice to finish with a lot of home games, especially when it becomes attrition at that point with injuries and whatever, right?
Yeah. So it's I also think it's a bit of a reset with how this season has gone. You've got this they had this extended break around Christmas. You had many teams shut down due to COVID issues. It's a clusterfuck. And yeah, you can have all your statistical models you want saying that the Canucks only have an 11% chance at making the playoffs. But this is just a weird year where you do not like it. The Oilers lost again tonight. Canucks are still only 3 points back of the Oilers after the start that the Canucks had. And you're telling me that it's only 11% because of your statistical model? I think it's a crapshoot, and why not? It's not only just the Pacific Division. Like you've got Nashville is right up there in the Central. Who would have picked that at the beginning of the season? And will they stay there with Colorado having 5 games in hand on them?
In terms of the Canucks, we'll get a good sense this month of truly where they're at. You've got Florida, Tampa here on the 11th, 13th, 15th, that road trip, that 5-game road trip to Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Washington, Nashville, then home to Florida. This is the schedule. St. Louis, the Oilers, which is only their second meeting of the year with the Oilers, I want to say.
All the way back to, like, was it the first or second game of the season?
Yeah. You have Winnipeg, which is a team you have to catch, and Calgary. And you haven't played Calgary yet. So I think that these next 9 games, I mean, don't get me wrong, this has been a great start, but I think we are now going to see, I think we've seen the worst of the Canucks where Travis Green, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working, and Bruce Boudreau has brought the best out of it. But I think we're about to see exactly where they're at.
Yeah, and it's somewhere in between, the worst of Travis Green towards the end and the honeymoon phase and the bump that comes with a coaching change mid-season and what we're seeing to start with Bruce Boudreau. But I have to say, okay, cynical comment here, but all the people out there that were saying, oh, Travis Green's this great coach and it's all the roster and it's Benning, it's like, now I'm kind of worried if Travis Green's going to get another opportunity because, boy, it don't look very good for him the way it's turned out now. And I'm not against Travis Green. I like Travis Green, but doesn't it really show?
I look at it and I think he just was. Look at what Dallas Eakins is doing in Anaheim, and look back at what he did in Edmonton and his first go there. Mm-hmm. Coaches, same thing. Alain Vigneault in Montreal versus Alain Vigneault in Vancouver. Yep. He may have to go down to the A again to prove himself or be an assistant coach somewhere, but he's going to get another shot. I think he has proven that he can be a good coach. He just needs to learn from what was wrong what went wrong in Vancouver, which was he got too systematic and he tried to make the team and he tried to make the players something that they weren't.
Yeah, he tried to take an offensive team and get them to play a defensive style, and that to, I don't know, cover up flaws. You still have to outscore the other team at some point. Not outscore 9-8 every game, but still, like, if you're going to just play a defensive style and try to win 1-0, I mean, that's tough to do.
Play to your strengths, not to try and cover up your weaknesses.
That's right.
Yeah, I still don't think in terms of the only thing I would say, though, is I still look at that defense. It does need, and I'm hearing from what I'm hearing, I'm just going to maybe take it from the direction of Jim Rutherford, and what he's seeing is he's not entirely sure where this team is at now. I mean, we haven't really talked about, we haven't had a chance to dig into Jim Rutherford's introductory press conference here because, of everything that has happened. But with Rutherford, I think that one of the things that I think it has been a key takeaway from what he said is he's like, even last Friday when he was on with Halford and Bruff on 650, he does not have a good sense of where this team is at.
Well, I think a big part of that is how good they played under Boudreau versus how just piss poor they looked under Travis Green. Like, what you get, as you said, Kev, the next 9 games are gonna be huge. If the Canucks can get 6 wins out of that, like, that's huge. That says a lot more than that says a lot. But if they go 500 or less, then I think you are still looking at potentially making some tough decisions and quote unquote selling off some assets to get younger and get some more draft capital. But if you're not, then I think you just stick to it. And Rutherford has said this multiple times. He's not trading high picks, so he's not going whatever. If they continue on this heater and get back into it and become a legit playoff option, then I think this is maybe he'll tinker around the edges, try and make a hockey trade, maybe another try just move out a defense, like I don't know, just tinker around the edges with some of the depth players and some maybe some later picks or whatever. But I think for the most part, he's going to just say this is the group and go for it and see if they can see how deep they can go, and then make them moves that he made major moves in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say he might have had the sample size he was looking for to make some definitive assessments on the team at this point, if it weren't for all the canceled games. But really, since he's been officially in the job, it's only been a handful of games. So, he still needs more time. But yeah, the longer that they keep this heater going, and there's not very many losses. I mean, there hasn't been a regulation loss yet since Bruce Boudreau took over. So the longer that continues, the less likely we're going to see changes, especially since they've been playing without their full lineup here throughout this stretch. There's always been somebody on the protocol.
And they still haven't got Pettersson going either. Like they're doing this, and Pettersson's got 2 goals.
Yeah, and then the last Yarrow Halak appearance, Demko, he gets so much praise, and because rightfully so. I mean, he's been this awesome goalie, but even he takes the night off against the Kings, and Halak steps in and turns in a brilliant performance and steals him a point, basically. So it's going well right now. Confidence. It's really, that's probably the biggest thing. It's less about tactics and lineup choice and even who's in goal. It's just that winning feeling is there right now, and you just hope it stays as long as possible.
I honestly think that the line between the difference between a good team and an average team and a below average team is very little.
Yeah.
Unless you're Seattle or Arizona, where you don't have the offense, or you're literally just tanking.
Yeah, and there's no depth in their systems to replace anybody that's out.
If you've got a couple stars up front and someone who can move the puck on the blue line, and a goaltender who can just at least keep you in games when you need them, you're going to be in these games. You're going to be in the majority of the games you play, and it's that the confidence, just and trust in the system and trust in your teammates is going to make the difference. I know it sounds like, a lot of the talk right now is analytics and this, that, and the other thing, but I honestly think that if you watch the games now, a lot of it is confidence and trust in the system and your teammates. Because if you have those, you're going to execute better than the other team.
Yeah, I mean, it's talent in one hand, but it's belief, desire. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you about confidence. Like, just to go on a brief tangent here, I watching the Oilers Rangers game, and I mean, there was 2 things that were really striking. I mean, first, I kind of made the joke to Tyler off air, Sean, that the Rangers broadcasting crew, because of protocol, it was the Rangers broadcasting crew tonight, not the Oilers one. The Rangers talked more about the bottom 6 forwards than the Oilers broadcasting crew ever did. I mean, I heard a Warren Foegele name. I've never heard that one. Anyway. But I also,
just on that too. I mean, Oilers fans, I don't think they're too butthurt. They're probably actually refreshed to listen to a different viewpoint on their team. But let's just say it's unvarnished.
Honestly, I think more people should listen to road analysis of their favorite teams, because it's a lot more honest. It's you see it with fresh eyes. And sometimes you're in that muck too much, and you're just like as an example, and I'm not saying people are wrong for saying this, but as an example, how dare we trade JT Miller examples as those comments are getting out on Twitter. When you watch from a road perspective, you can see why someone thinks that where we're missing something for JT Miller, or You know, and I'm just, it's a different way to look at it. Cause I always, just full disclosure, I always like listening to two different broadcasts of the game because I just feel that that's a more holistic way to actually watch the game.
Yeah.
So, but
if you want to not, but there's, one thing I want to do in 2022 is watch more non-Canucks games. I've been busy. I haven't been able to watch too many of the other games because I want to see how the rest of the league is playing. One thing I've noticed with the Canucks, and it's been going back to even last season, is how it seems like they're trying to do too much with the puck at times. And even now, during this 8-0-1 stretch, I still see it. And I just wonder, is that something that they're doing, or is that something that the other teams are doing? And you can get myopic with how you view a team based off of your home broadcast. I'm totally up to listening to any other broadcast minus one.
of course, yeah.
I will not listen to the Bruins broadcast.
Oh, good God, that's no. You don't.
Well, that barely qualifies as a broadcast.
That's
production. Yes, Jack Edwards.
Yeah,
I'm not. Do Bruins fans even like Jack?
Yeah, they do.
Like I don't know, because he goes nuts on their own players sometimes. And maybe that's what it is. They like the fact that it's like a fan that's in the booth as opposed to a broadcaster in the booth. Like he just goes off script so much.
Okay, here's another story. Just playing off of that, we saw the end of Jim Houston's career this past year.
Yeah.
And I remember getting into it with Leafs fans, and that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted a homer to
I know, but it's weird because Gordon Miller and Chris Cuthbert are doing all their games now on one network or the other, and neither display the Joe Bowen traits that everybody seems to be asking for. They're Ontario guys, though. I mean, I know Gord from Edmonton, but seen as an Ontario guy now. And I guess that's more what it is. Houston never, it's out here.
Houston was around. Houston was around for so long, and then he was with the Canucks, and then he, even when he was national when the Canucks were good. So all you heard was him going pretty hard on the Canucks because they were good. Great save Luongo being a trademark call.
Yeah.
But I think it is. I don't know. I think it. I want to watch some more. I want to figure this. I watched a little bit of the Devils and Capitals game yesterday. More so because I did some live betting and had the Capitals pulled off the comeback, I would have won some money. But
whatever motivates you to watch the game.
Yeah. Chris won some credits with Bodog and decided he needed my advice on betting. I told him, don't listen to me. I'm horrible. And I threw a couple bucks down on at the second intermission of both the Capitals and Devils game. I had the Caps coming back from a 3-1 deficit to win, and then I had the Colorado and Anaheim game to hit the over. So close.
Yeah.
But just to get back to your point there, Kev, I think it is. Yeah, sometimes it is refreshing to listen to other broadcasts and just listen to how they view their players and how they view the players on your team too, because it is a lot different. Because
the other thing is too, from a broadcasting nerd point of view, is if you're watching your team play via the other team's broadcast, you really get a nice window into the level of preparation these guys do on the opposing teams every night, and you see some good and some bad. That's neat to see too.
That's the difference between you guys and myself. You guys are a lot more broadcasting nerds than I am. I just want to watch the game to watch the game.
Yeah.
There's half the game I'm not even listening to the broadcast. I'm watching. Mm-hmm. I'm making my own commentary in my own head.
Yeah.
So it's And I was lucky enough to go to the Flames home opener this season. I got to watch Trevor Zegras and the beginning of what is now an absolutely amazing season for Troy Terry. And I got to see Jamie Drysdale play live as well. And now I went there excited to go watch Zegras and Drysdale because I hadn't seen them live before, and I know how talented they are.
Yeah, I think just in general, one of my constructive critiques about Canucks podcast Twitter in general, and I just will say this in general, and I do think that this has hit a lot of other markets too. So I don't think that this is just specifically a Canucks one, but it's become a little bit too myopic that we are only focused on the players on our team as opposed to where the game is at large. And I think that that's something that is often missed. And then you can either, it ends up, you can either overvalue a player or you can undervalue a player on your team because of you're only focused on that team where,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a new thing. I mean, I think
no,
like radio, even radio news. It's local. It's radio's a local medium, right? And then you got radio broadcasts of sports teams, and then the shows around that coverage, and then there's all sports radio stations in some places, but it's all local, and it's very focused in that way. And podcasts are just another form of that. I think podcasts, although universally accessible, are still a local format, really.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't dismiss the local, but I also think, I think maybe another story that happened this year, and it was a tough one, but the Jeff Merrick show has been a breath of fresh air for Sportsnet because he is not focused on one hockey team. He is focused on the entire game of hockey, and I think that that's why there are some people that think that some markets are more fan base markets than hockey markets.
Well, we'll see how that show succeeds rating wise. I mean, the problem with that is, we might like the format because we have a very broad interest in hockey and are interested in listening to something from that point of view. But if more people are just tuning into, say, Sportsnet 590 in Toronto because all they want to hear is about the Leafs, and now you've got Merrick talking about other teams, do you lose some people from that? That's the danger.
Yeah,
that's why these national formats don't last typically. Is for that.
But
reason.
do you gain other ones
local.
though? Like and
Yeah.
with it,
well,
with
it's
it
pretty
being on
fragmented now.
You got it on 960 and 650 as well, right? I think it's
Yeah.
I when that news came down, but when it was announced that Jeff Merrick was running that show, that midday show, I was like, no, that's gonna be great. Like that, he is. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for what he does. He is an absolute hockey nerd. He doesn't. He embraces the hockey lingo without sounding like he's trying too hard. Somehow, I don't know how he does it, but he does it.
Well, he's getting back to his roots as well. I mean, that's where he came from, was radio, and you could see the strength that he has there at that format, and that goes back a long time. He's a radio guy that became a TV guy, and now he's going back to his roots there. And
then the other thing too is that I've touched on it a little bit with me watching Capitals and Devils because of betting. You've got betting and you got fantasy sports too. So fantasy hockey. There's a lot of people who are a little more invested in other games because of that.
Oh yeah.
And so they want to listen, and kicking that show off with 31 basically a mini 31 thoughts with Friedman every day is brilliant.
Yeah, well, I think it's been great out here because we have the Sportsnet 650 morning show lead right into the Jeff Merrick show, and so you can have it on in your truck or at your desk if you're allowed at work or whatever, and so you can get Halford and Bruff there and get all your very intensely focused Canucks oriented coverage in the morning, and then you get into something different with another strong broadcaster right after.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think another big story would be just continue growth online of content, including us. I think it's becoming more. There's more and more options out there, and there's more. And that was one of the biggest change. That was one of the reasons they changed. Rogers changed how they did things, especially in the Toronto market. Is that they made it a lot of their programming is a lot more evergreen now. It's not just the morning show or just this. They move things around now, and I think that's part of the future of this is less about your standard morning like your morning show, and then you've got your midday show, and then you've got your drive home show, and you got your evening show. That's old school thinking now.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then
I
you've
love
got and then you've got going back to the TSN thing. I still can't believe that was 2021. You've got
I remember I will never forget where I was on that day. I never because I was literally Phil and I were the news and sports that day at BCIT, and it just was like at 9:00 it became such a shit storm.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna use the phrase "the poop hit the fan" in the newsroom there. I mean, just so it's part of one of those things where there's people running around. It's like, what is happening? What do we do? Get on it.
Yeah.
But you saw a lot of those people land on their feet pretty quickly. Alfred and Bruff moved over to 650. They're the morning show there now. Sekeres and Price have their loyal followers on their show, and they've almost built. They're in the process of kind of building a bit of a network there. Donnie and Dolly go to Czech and have been fantastic.
And when you watch these guys, like those last two in particular, it was almost like a blessing in disguise for them that happened. Because now they're getting to do, maybe the financial compensation is not as good as it was before or whatever, but I think their passion for their craft has been reignited by the fact that they're on their own and they can do things more creatively, and they're less sort of in a box with the format and the advertiser requirements and sort of that cloud of Toronto centric corporate media hanging over them, and I think that comes through in their shows. I think you can tell just how much more fun they're having with the shackles taken off.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Like Donnie and Dolly especially, but I think even with Sekeres and Price, I mean, those guys, they had a show together at 1040, but what they're able to do now, there's certainly got to be a lot more creative freedom, and they have to be enjoying that more now than they were before.
Oh, Sekeres has gone very creative at
rogue, you might say. But what is rogue when he's answering to himself, right?
Yeah. But and then you look at. I'll be surprised if there's not even more major changes coming in this year with it. The Canucks radio rights are up after this season.
Yes,
that could be a huge, because I have a sneaky suspicion that there's going to be at least another conglomerate making a push there. Whether it's Chorus or something like that, or there could be who knows? Maybe we see Jim Pattinson step up like he did back in the day to get us high.
You remember that
hockey?
Yeah,
and he spearheads a new station or whatever or a different station to go after the Canucks radio rights and get them. And get them away from Sportsnet and Rogers.
It's going to be very interesting. It'll be very interesting, and even how radio broadcasts are. Then I think that's also going to be a very interesting question. With travel and the restrictions and costs, it will be very fascinating to see what happens overall.
The other one too is in Edmonton. Last season, I believe, was the first year in a 3-year radio rights deal with the Oilers and 630 CHED. So next season will be the final year of that deal. There is still a TSN radio station in Edmonton. If the rights don't move over to the TSN radio station, have to wonder if that one gets cut too. Because essentially that's what happened. I mean, the TSN had radio rights with the Canucks on 1040, and then once those were lost, suddenly it's a less profitable venture. And then the same thing happened in
Winnipeg as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the rights
Winnipeg,
went over to CJOB, and that was kind of it for them, right?
Yeah.
That being said, if there is if there is an alternative to come in and look for the Canucks radio rates, I hope they push to have maybe not a 24/7 sports radio station, but a very much one that does cover hockey and sports, especially during the hockey season, very, very close to it as possible. Because I think that if you don't have that, you lose something.
Yeah, and hard to say really, how committed Sportsnet is to 650, even 960 when, let's talk about 650 specifically. I mean, 960 has been around in the Sportsnet fold for a while, but 650 was kind of the creation of Scott Moore, and he's not around anymore. And a lot of the people he put in place are not around anymore, including Craig McEwen, who was the program director. So, yeah, the future there, I would say, is a bit uncertain. At least a bit uncertain.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe if they lose the rights, I'd be surprised if it stays around.
Yeah, no, it will be. I hope not. I mean, I hope things I hope there's some stabilization. There's some really good people at 650 that are doing a great job, and I think 650 has done a fantastic job with it. So
it's never a comment on the quality though, right? It's about the ratings.
It's about the ratings.
In the Vancouver market, the sports stations only do better than Funny 1040 and AM 730 Traffic. Not to disparage those stations, but there's a long list of other stations, music, news talk, CBC radio that rank far above in terms of listener share, and that's the currency of the business, right?
And
it's not a comment on the quality.
And music is a much cheaper way of running a radio station, too.
Yep.
The amount of personnel you need to run a talk radio station, whether it's politics or sports or whatever, or news or whatever. It's a lot more than just one guy, one or two people talking every 2-3 minutes.
Yeah,
at most.
Yeah. Well, and it's a challenge too in downtown Vancouver to pick up AM radio stations in your car. like the CBC, I don't know how they managed to score 88.1 FM somehow, but for them to get not to get on a too big a tangent here, but for them to actually be able to put their CBC Radio 1 format on FM in Vancouver when there was almost no FM frequencies left to be had. And there was competition for that. Imagine a sports station on FM. I mean, how great that would sound in your car. But obviously music's not going to be on AM. But when you're listening to an AM station, you basically can't listen to it anymore as soon as you come across the Dunsmuir Viaduct. That's a bit of a problem too.
Yeah,
a Vancouver problem, but a problem nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I mean it's. I think ways people are consuming their content is very different now. So it's becoming, it's an interesting challenge for everyone within the industry, just getting in the industry, just graduating from school.
Yeah, and we've seen some professional sports teams. I think the LA Kings are one of them, that their radio broadcasts are streaming only. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are doing that now. So I think that could be something that ends up happening with the Canucks down the road. I don't think in their next rights deal, but maybe say 10 years from now, something like that. You could see a format where it's streaming only.
Yep. Yeah. The future is here, folks. The future is here.
It's arriving fast. It's arriving fast.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's there's just that's yeah. I was going to say that, and I changed, not changed my mind on saying that. I just forgot what I was going to say.
You pulled a Chris.
I pulled a Chris. I did pull a Chris. Hi, Chris. Hope you're okay.
Hi, Chris. Poor guy.
Not
here to defend himself again.
Neither is Devin. But we haven't bashed Devin yet.
Give me time.
Well, I mean, we could. I let's can we just? There's other things to a couple of other things. This just happened today before I put out the agenda, but maybe it's we talked a lot about this last week. Tyler, I don't think that you would be too surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I have a hunch I know where you're going to go with this, because the Flames Arena deal was officially terminated this weekend. They are still behind on a couple of things. Mayor Jody Gondek sent a tweet out just before Christmas in regards to the deal being terminated. The Flames released a statement with the and now we're at that. It's still, the Saddle Dome is still under 11-year lease. But I just, the more and more I think about this, and again, maybe the Toque, I'm trying to pay tribute to the great Cam Talbot, former Flame, here with the Toque today, because people were saying Toques were cool, so I thought, let's wear a Toque today. And maybe there's some positivity in this Kool-Aid that I'm drinking. But I can't see. I think this deal gets done. I really do. I think that they will get creative with it. There'll be some creativity with it, but ultimately, I think these two sides will come together and they will get it done. Although last week I did say that I do think moving is not as much not on the. I think that moving is more on the table than people think. I don't think that will happen. I think it will get done.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, less than 5% chance. I mean, maybe even less than 2% chance that the Flames would end up moving as a result of all of this. And I think Gary Bettman's very committed to Calgary as a hockey market. Yeah, these things tend to take funny paths to getting done.
Yep.
And we've seen other big projects like this too. I mean, I remember what is now the Canada line in Vancouver, I think, was killed twice before it was finally brought back from the dead and gotten done. The political will with that proposal obviously wasn't there. So now it's up to the Flames ownership group to get back to the drawing board and come up with something different here and push this thing forward. The unfortunate problem that, from what I could see from over here for the city of Calgary, is that you had the city of Edmonton basically cave to the Oilers and their ownership group to help fund their arena. And so now, the Flames, I guess, kind of are within their right to make the same ask. The reality is, I don't get the sense that the public in Calgary has much appetite for that, certainly not as much as in Edmonton. And you look around at other major Canadian cities and how they funded their arenas entirely privately. And, I don't fault the people there, and I don't fault the local government in Calgary for putting its foot down.
I said it last week. I'll say it again. Kevin, you're out to lunch with your opinion here, with the fact that a moving is even slightly realistic. I think it's not. And I think it just sucks, because I think it is time for a new arena here in Calgary. I think it is time for, even though I will miss the Saddle Dome when it's gone, and I will yell at Kevin multiple times over his disdain for it, because it's
the Saddle Dome's awesome. What are you guys talking about?
Exactly. I told you. See, Kev, you're
I think what we need to do, though, Sean, is we need to get Tyler to McMahon Stadium, and he will realize what a horrendous dump that place is.
I love that dump, though.
I sat on the old side of Mosaic Stadium at Taylor Field in 2014. Okay, and that was frightening, being in the bowels of that stadium. So McMahon can't be any worse. Although looking at it on TV, it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing.
No.
We have to drive past it a few times when I saw you fellas there in the summer too, and that didn't seem like much there either.
Yeah. No, there's not much. It's
it's a very basic stadium.
Yeah, it's very much so. It's but yeah, I agree. I think it is I think that they will get together and rehash a new deal here, and it'll happen. There's too much vested interest in the Flames from the community standpoint, the fans, and everything there. even if the ownership does try and threaten that, this market when it's good, and it's not like it's struggling now. That's the thing. It's not like it's struggling now to at least get close to full when allowed. So there's no argument to say that they can't make it work. And if this ownership wants to yell and scream and kick and throw a tantrum and threaten to move, I feel like the league would step in and say no.
Yeah,
and they would broker a deal to a new ownership group who would make it happen.
I hope you're right. I agree with you. I think you are right, but I still have just a touch of mistrust.
Yeah, I know it's easy for people to think, oh, Gary doesn't like Canada and he wants to see the Canadian teams move and this and that. No, in this case, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, all of them, they're such strong hockey markets and so crucial to generating revenue for the entire league that it would be. They'd have to have a situation where nobody wants to own the team and no new arena being in place for the team to move, and there's no lack of interest in owning the Flames, so it'll get done somehow.
Yeah, the only thing
if Bettman was actually anti-Canadian, we wouldn't have the Ottawa Senators.
No, that's fair.
And he would have found another way to avoid the Jets coming back too. But that was the situation they had there, is nobody wanted to own the team in Atlanta, and so you had this group in waiting with an NHL ready building that had a team before, and so they got their team.
What was I going to say? The only thing I'll say on this is, and I don't think a new commissioner would necessarily change this, but we have had this discussion. I do think it's time for a new commissioner. I think it's the time for a new direction for the National Hockey League. And what that new commissioner does in regard, I don't think that if that new commissioner is smart, they would see the value in Canadian teams and wouldn't be moving anybody. Hopefully that would be a smart thing, but that's the only question that I would have. But I would anticipate whoever they put in that position would hold the same general view as Gary Bettman, with a small distrust that I have for him.
Yeah, no, I get your distrust there, Kev. I just think when you look at things rationally and you take away the all the noise, if he was truly against Canada, we wouldn't have the Ottawa Senators, we wouldn't have the Winnipeg Jets. We would have the Houston whatevers and the Kansas City whatevers, right?
Yeah, and if you want to keep a 32 team league, I mean, you need these Canadian markets and the economic generators that they are to keep it going.
Especially once Calgary does get a new arena too, because that'll all those great $15 beers that there are currently 11.
Yeah, there'll be $17 beers at the new Calgary Flames.
What they should do, what I think, and I think Costco should do this at the Edmonton Arena, the Rogers Place too, is just build a Costco by the rink and sell hot dogs, because that is a moneymaker.
Or is this a Vancouver?
There's the Vancouver coming out, and Kevin.
Yeah.
It is though. It is, because like you go to the rink and the food is however much, right? Why would you just not get? You're going to pay for. You're going to eat a hot dog. It's the same wiener from the same brand name. You're not getting a special wiener at Rogers. At Rogers,
oh, we're totally clipping this.
This is so going on the intro down the roads.
You get the wiener from. They get the same wiener. They get the wiener from the Costco, right? So you might as well just go to Costco and buy the wiener there.
Oh no, Kevin, no. This is an all-time.
He committed to the bed. I'll applaud him for it.
That's what I'm just saying.
Oh, Happy New Year, everybody.
I'm not
Wow.
wrong though.
No, you're not. The delivery here is
Oh well.
oh boy.
Anyway,
thank you for that.
anytime. What else? Okay, so let's. I'm just kind of go through here. We got a mishmash of stuff. Can we talk about the Oilers?
Sure.
This looks like a team I was watching tonight that reminded me of the Canucks under Travis Green. They look a little lost.
Yeah.
They look a little inconfident. They look very frustrated. The one difference is they do not have goaltending to keep them in the game at all.
Yeah, that was there for them earlier in the season. What are they going to change coaches again?
Well, there's a name coming out. Apparently, the name Mike Babcock is being linked to the Oilers.
Stop
Babcock.
it! He's not going to Edmonton. Enough.
Honestly, I'm with you, Tyler. I don't think it happens. I think this is more fan based, chicken little stuff going on here more than anything else.
Yeah,
this is speculation that has become no. I mean speculation. This is just fan based rumor mongering that has created something that doesn't actually have any legs.
No.
Okay, but let me counter something for you. If you see a team in your division going 8-0-1 with a new head coach, and you see your team struggling right now, and your team has to make there's no question. Like let's just be flat out honest. The Oilers must make the playoffs, and not only that, they have to win at least one round. That's an absolute. I don't think that we disagree with this. Do you not think that a coaching change is at least on the table? I'm not saying it's Babcock, but you have to think a coaching change is on the table here.
Oh, I think everything's on the table. Well, almost everything. Yeah. You're not trading
McDavid. Yeah, you're not doing that.
But I think if I'm Ken Holland, I'm moving heaven and earth to try and find a way to get a goaltender who can stop a puck and not flop like he's.
Oh yeah. Thoughts and prayers to Mika Koskinen as he was. He took a nasty.
That's an all-time flop there.
Yeah,
he must have learned that from his goaltending partner there, Mike Smith. Too.
Yeah, I think he did.
Back every time he gets bumped too.
Both horrific acting jobs too, by the way.
Koskinen, that was something special. Look, the Oilers are in playoff position right now. I'm not saying comfortably in playoff position. They're in playoff position. They started the season 9-1 or something. Like everybody needs to calm down a little bit. Kenny Holland doesn't seem like the knee-jerk react type of manager to me.
I think they make a trade for a goalie before they make a coaching change, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do make a coaching change. I just don't think Mike Babcock's the name. I think there's still a cloud around his name they wouldn't do it. I don't think they do.
I mean, I haven't been watching the Oilers that closely lately. I mean, are they looking like beer league hockey team, bad, lost? Everybody looking around for an answer, or are they just struggling a little bit? Like with the Canucks, it was the former there. It did look like they were running around with their chickens with their heads cut off, and then it got to the point where are they trying to get the coach fired? I mean, it looked like they quit. I don't know if the Oilers look like they have quit yet. They're just struggling.
They look very frustrated. I will say that. Just from watching them tonight.
And to Sean's point, if you don't have the goaltending, it's so deflating for the rest of the guys.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, McDavid. It was.
That wasn't the problem with the Canucks. They had the goaltending.
They didn't have the goaltending
doing the job properly.
I mean, a couple of times tonight, McDavid sets up Hyman on a beautiful pass one-timer, and Georgiev makes the save, and then they go down and score.
Yeah.
Draisaitl sets up McDavid for a one-timer. Georgiev makes the save, and then they go down and score. I mean, the first one was obviously his fault. The second one, you could make an argument if that's Koskinen's fault or not, but they're not getting the goaltending. I think their defense is weak. I mean, I think Holland has to make some changes, but Yeah,
Yeah, I just look at it and I think they need to get some goaltending. They need to fix that blue line. They need to have maybe a new coach is it. Like we just saw what, as you said, Kev, we saw what the new coach did with the Canucks. I think even the Flyers have looked a little bit better since the coaching change. You can get that, and something big is going to happen in Edmonton in the next month. Whether it's a trade and they finally get a goaltender who isn't 38 years old and or and whatever. Like I was talking with friend of the show, Graham Mosman, about how if this was a normal season and you didn't have all this COVID stuff to navigate, would they have already made a trade with Columbus to grab like Korpisalo? So I feel like Merzlikins is their 1A there. They've got Daniel Tarasov, who's come in and played really well for them already, and he is another Ian Clark special. And meanwhile, up in Edmonton, they've got Stuart Skinner, who nearly basically almost scored on his own net in his first game. He's played okay. But then you've got Mike Smith, who gets injured every second, third game now. I mean, that was going in like, yeah, if Mike Smith can stay healthy and like the changes he's made to his game have been good, and he'll be able to be a solid goaltender for them. I just didn't at that age could his body hold up, and it's proven that it can't. Yeah. And then Mikko Koskinen is Mikko Koskinen, and has not been is not a good 1A to a starter goaltender.
No,
he's an okay backup. He can play good for you for streaks, but he's not going to be able to carry the load as a starter or even a 1A. They desperately need to find a way to improve that, and they need to improve that blue line, and I think they need to give some of the kids a chance in that bottom six. McLeod, I think he deserves more opportunity. They're finally seeing Puljujärvi, the Bison King, do something. Why? What does hold them back on giving Tyler Benson a shot?
Perhaps the coach doesn't want to give him a shot.
I think
he played tonight. He got an assist tonight. Benson did.
So it's just, I think it's time to just try something different, and I think it's time to let the kids run with that bottom six and see what happens, because going with vets and all this is not working. Yeah, you've got Drew Shore. He doesn't do anything.
He's assured of himself. Sorry, I had to. I dug myself a ditch already with the wiener. Okay, so I'll just stay in here and just keep digging. Anyway,
yeah.
Any other teams you want to talk about?
Detroit, because I have a question.
Okay.
Well, actually, I have a statement. Lucas Raymond is not the best rookie in the league this season.
It's Moritz Seider?
It's Moritz Seider. And it's not even close. And that's nothing against Lucas Raymond. He's having one hell of a season. Any other season, he's a lock to win the Calder. Moritz Seider is an absolute beast. Like, he's already one of the best defensemen in the league overall. And he's a rookie.
He was in that draft that Tyler and I went to.
He was, yes.
Yeah, he was the off the board pick that Stevie Yzerman went, and everyone was like, "Really? You went with him?" And now he looks like a fucking genius.
Yeah.
Like, he is a
I'll say this too. I mean, the Canucks going with Podkolzin seemed a little off the board for some, including myself. And I don't think we're unhappy with that choice at this point.
Oh, Pod's is looking great. But
it's just a testament to some good homework there and good scouting.
That was like that. He is far and away the best rookie in this class. And like I said, that's nothing against Lucas Raymond, who is having one hell of a season. He's got 21 points in 33 games as a rookie defenseman who isn't necessarily someone you think is offensively gifted, like a Cale Makar or a Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be adding him. He's already in that conversation with the Adam Foxes, the Cale Makars, the Quinn Hugheses, the Miro Heiskanens, as like the next generation of defensemen that are going to be in the Norris Trophy conversation for a couple decades.
That top 10 draft, that might be one of the best that has been around for a long time. You look at Zegras, Podkolzin, Kirby Doc has some things to work on. Jack Hughes, though. Jack Hughes is getting so much better. Even Capo Caco, still a couple that need some work. I think Oiler fans, Broberg, Cousins, Turcotte still, Matthew Boldy was going to make his debut this week. But that top half of that draft, Peyton Krebs traded to Buffalo, Cole Caulfield, Spencer Knight. That's going to be one that we're going to be talking about for a while.
No, it's a
There's
great
a lot of
draft,
hits in that album.
Jack Hughes is someone who, I didn't think he was going to hit right off the bat. Well, actually, sorry, I did think he was going to hit off the bat, but after he had his his rookie season where it wasn't necessarily great, I had no issues with thinking that he would be able to come back. I think he's too smart of a player, too skilled of a player, and we're seeing that now. Him and Hischi are going to be that New Jersey team has some underrated players, and they're going to be good for a while. Kako is someone he may take a little bit longer, but I think he's still going to be good. Doc, same thing. Like, the thing with Doc is I think, he'd be so much better on a team that actually had some structure.
Yeah,
Chicago's a bit of a mess, and if he was on a team with a little bit more structure, I think he'd be absolutely like that kid. That kid is a beast. He's going to be good. You didn't even mention Vancouver.
Yeah.
Giant old Vancouver Giants, Bowen Byram, like that. Talk about a guy he's just like the only reason he's not in a lot of this conversation is because he's on Colorado and they've got Cale Makar, they've got Sam Girard, they've got Devon Taves.
I did mention Byram.
I don't think you did. I don't know. I didn't hear you mention Byram. I was going to bring this up too.
Bowen Byram.
Yeah, everyone can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. You heard me when I was talking about Wieners, but Bowen Byram, you guys all turned it out. Huh?
Please save us, Sean.
But yeah, I that top 10. There's a lot of players they like, and I look at that now, and it's nothing against Jack Hughes again, but Moritz Seider just looks like an just at 6 he's a steal right now, in my opinion. At 6 he's a steal. That's how high I am on Moritz Seider, and I think he's. Like, he may not win the Calder because it always seems to be points based, but he is the best rookie in this class, and it's not even close.
I might have to clip that. It's Detroit is going to be a team to watch in the next couple of years. They are coming very fast. There's a lot of talent there. And it's just a matter of time, and they're going to get they should get a high lottery pick again this year. And
Maybe.
they're coming.
They're putting. I wouldn't say it's a lock that they're a high lottery pick team this year. They're they're still fighting tooth and nail in a very tough division.
Yeah, let's look at that. So, I mean, to me, Tampa, Florida, Toronto, I don't see that changing. I think that's the top three. I think you can make an argument of where all three face, but I think it's the two Florida teams in Toronto. Boston is an interesting. I'm not, Jack Edwards or not. I'm not sold on that Boston team. I think there's a lot of work to be done there. But in terms of wild card, I mean, there's only one more spot to get in, because I think you're getting for sure 4 teams in the Metro in. Rangers, Washington, Carolina, Pittsburgh. So it comes down to either Boston, Detroit, Philly, and Columbus and Jersey. Jersey is hanging in there, and I still think the Islanders are going to cause some problems. I do not believe the Islanders are dead.
Unfortunately, I cannot make how many times did the news try and kill Betty White before she finally actually decided to unfortunately leave us?
Oh, that was so heartbreaking.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you're right there, Kev, on the Islanders. I think they are going to be a team that's going to be. But you look at it, the Detroit's a 500 points percentage team. So is Philly. Boston's 607, but I'm not sold on them right now. And then you look at the rest of the East. Like, Montreal's at 265. Ottawa's at 349, 345.
Can you imagine if we were podcasting and talking about the Montreal Canadiens this year?
I don't think I would. I'll just be honest. I don't think I would.
Yeah. I just want to say I'm not sold on Toronto as a top 3 in the Atlantic Division. Boston, yeah, maybe not as good as in recent years, but they have 3 games in hand on Toronto. They're 10 points behind. There's still a lot of season left. I'm pretty sold on the 2 Florida teams, but not on the Maple Leafs.
Oh, I think the Maple Leafs will be third in that. It will be a top 3 team in that division. It's just not. But that's.
I think they're a playoff
a
team, but I don't know if they're a top 3 in the division team.
I said they're 10 points up on Boston. Yeah, Boston's got 3 games in hand, but you got to win. They have to win all 3 of them.
Yeah, they're not even at the halfway mark either.
Yeah, so
long way to go here. I have way more faith. I have way more faith in Boston in over 40 games than I do in Toronto. Let's just put it that way.
The one thing I will say is your goal differential, which is always an interesting stat to look at in terms of how quote unquote good a team is. Toronto's at plus 28, while Boston's at plus 7. Like that's huge. Like compare that to where we're Canucks fans. Let's look at that. Canucks are minus 6, and Edmonton is plus 4. Like to me, that's not a big difference compared to nearly 20. That's half the difference. 7 versus 28. So yeah, you're looking at 21 goal difference versus 10.
The one concern I have with the Leafs is I know that everybody is in love with Jack Campbell, but I am not on that boat. I don't trust him. I think last year for me, just watching him when he stood out, he got injured. I'm concerned about the guy's durability. And then you have Mrazek, which is the same durability issue. That's my big concern with the Leafs. And I'm not quite convinced about their defense. Not quite yet. I'll tell you, I'm getting more and more impressed with William Nylander. He's a guy that's becoming higher up on my radar for sure. But I know everyone loves Jack Campbell, but I'm not there. I'm just not there.
I'm still waiting to see him prove it to some extent here as well. I just think in general they're a bit of a fragile team.
It's a longevity issue with and durability issue with Campbell. I think he's got the talent. He's proven that, It's just whether or not he can stay healthy. And if he can, that's great. That's fantastic for the Leafs, and he's going to be up there in the Vezina conversation, which is going to be a very interesting debate coming down, starting now until the end of the season. Because if Demko keeps playing the way he is, watch out. You've got other goalies who have played really well as well. We talk about the Leafs goaltending, and then you go to Carolina with Freddie Anderson and their ex goaltender Freddie Anderson, and he's playing fantastic in Carolina.
Yeah.
Who is your MVP, by the way? We'll just quickly do this. Maybe we'll wrap.
Who's the
Who's your
Hart?
MVP?
The Hart?
Yeah.
Hart Trophy. I just want to pull up some stats first.
That's where I'm going to.
we're going
I have
to the stat machine here.
I haven't really watched. Ovi.
Yeah, that's mine actually. It's Ovi.
Yeah, I already had Ovi as my default. I just wanted to look at the standings and the stats. But yeah, Washington tied for first overall at the moment, and Ovi getting it done statistically here. And what has he got? 50 points. He's just behind Draisaitl with 52 and McDavid with 53. You put it all together, I think Ovechkin's got to be the favorite there.
Can I tell you someone I would throw a vote at, though? I would throw a vote at Johnny. I really would. A third place vote at Johnny.
Good
Not a second place. Yep. He has been fantastic this year.
Doesn't have the same
Timothy.
JT Miller. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I guess we need to see the Canucks move up the standings a little.
Yeah,
bit.
That's my one issue with that.
Yeah,
because we're talking about guys who have same amount of points at this point. Yes, but Gaudreau's got a better points per game, but like we've learned from watching the Canucks that who drives the bus offensively for that team right now.
Yeah, Johnny's driving the bus though for the Flames too, and I think he's playing a really good overall game. I think that line with him and Lindholm and Tkachuk, it is clicking, it is driving play. I think he needs to have some consideration, but
you got to remember with Ovechkin, the guy is 36.
Oh,
and still performing at an extremely high level as a forward.
Yeah.
And that is something. And it doesn't look like he's running out of gas here too. It looks like he's got a few years worth of this still in the tank. So God bless the guy.
That's the one thing with Anna. Go ahead.
Another
Sean.
quiet. I was going to say another quiet option would be Steven Stamkos.
Yep. An even quieter one would be Jonathan Huberdeau.
Man, that guy is so good.
Yeah.
Like they were playing without Barkov for a long time too. Like that's. Yep. Adam Fox is quietly almost in the top 10 in points too. Yeah, he's got Panarin right there. That's the one thing I always look at too. If I'm going to look at just strictly points and all that, I want to do some little more, but like gut feel right now, it's Ovechkin. But one of the things I also look at is where are your teammates in this? So you got McDavid, you got Draisaitl. Unless you've got like a couple teammates who are like far and away, running away with the points. They've got 53 and 52 respectively. Ovi's at 50. Like it's excuse me. Like I just look at that and I think it's got to right now. It's got to be Ovi.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking at the points scoring summary here. Ovechkin third, and then the next Washington Capital on the list, if I'm reading this right, is Kuznetsov at 20, and he's 20th, and he's got 33 points. So, yeah, see with McDavid and Draisaitl and how much they play together, they kind of fuel each other's success. But Ovi, I mean, and the captain of that team, really throwing it on his back this year.
Absolutely, and I think
very strong argument for Hart Trophy based on that.
I also think it's for all the things that we keep talking about with analytics and age and when you give a contract to who at when, there you still have these athletes that prove you all wrong, and Ovi's one of them. He's 36 and he's passing the test of
He's
time.
more determined than he's ever been.
Yeah.
Chasing
That's
that
why
second
he's
Stanley
an
Cup,
actual-
maybe even chasing Gretzky's record here. Like those things are and you get older and more stubborn, and he's digging in, and we're seeing that, and the rest of the team's following with him, and they're tied for first overall. It's great to see.
And that's why he's a generational player. We keep hearing that tag being put on a lot of these prospects coming up, a lot of these players coming up, but we've had 3 generational players in this league since 2000. And that is Conor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, and Alex Ovechkin.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in a class on their own. Those 3.
Yeah, so you can say I still think there's a lot of I think there's still a lot of merit to that, but to the aging graphs and all that, and I think you have to weight them heavily. But there's our players you just throw it out the window with. Novi's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Total point. Okay, the points per 60. Can you guess who is leading the league in points per 60 out of players who have played more than 300 minutes?
I'm gonna say it's probably either Huberdeau or Stamkos, just off the top of my head. You asked me to guess,
No.
so that's what I'm doing.
No.
Points per 60.
Not a name that you would think. He's had a great year.
I'm not sure. I'm looking at
Nazem Kadri.
Nazem Kadri. 5.07 points per 60. The next best player is Conor McDavid at 4.28.
There you go.
Quite the
gap. That guy's going to get paid next year for sure.
Is this this is a contract year for him. Yeah,
it's contract year for Kadri. He's going to get paid. Yeah.
Oh man, someone's going to get fleeced by him.
Rookie. As far as defense, it's either Adam Fox or Victor Hedman. I think right now, the only other one, and maybe Roman Josi to me. But I really wish they did an offensive and a defensive award because we rely too much on these stats. But to me, it's the 3 best right now. Fox and Hedman seem to be head and shoulders above everybody else in terms of the way that they play this game.
Yeah, it's for me. Fox and Hedman are the 2 best defensemen in this league right now. Makar's right up there too. Quinn Hughes has had a nice resurgence year, but I think he's still maybe 4th or 5th or 6th on that list right now. So but like I said, going forward, it's going to be Fox, Makar, Hughes, Heiskanen. Don't forget about Dahlin either. And then now we're adding Moritz Seider.
Oh, and can I I'll add this guy because I do think he's going to be something. I think Owen Power will be a player in this league. I from what little we got to see of him in the juniors, he was something to watch.
Oh, he will be. Yeah, he'll be a part of that. And man, if Buffalo can ever figure their shit out, they've got a great couple players to build their blue line around. And if they can, they traded Eichel, but they still got Dylan Cozens and whatever they can get out of this draft.
Yep. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Did you guys talk about the Winter Classic?
Not very much. No, I didn't see the game. Nice to see it happening again. Nice to see it go to a hockey state where it's not a warm weather climate or anything like that. Is it Minneapolis? Hockey's very strong in Minnesota. Insanely cold. Kevin's got the toque on, of course, in honor of Cam Talbot wearing the toque. But Hard to ignore Andrew Raycroft, former NHL goalie, tweeting the picture side by side of an empty Scotiabank Arena in Toronto on the same night as the Winter Classic, which was full at Target Field. Sign of the times, certainly. But yeah, nice to see the Winter Classic make a return, and we'll look forward to the other outdoor games. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but I believe we're going to be seeing one in Hamilton with the Leafs and Sabres. Are we
Leafs
not?
and Sabres Heritage Classic. I'll reinstate my idea that I know, Tyler, you don't think it will happen, but I'm still putting it out there.
Yeah.
Home and home series, Canucks Kraken, Lumen Field in Seattle for the Winter Classic, in Whistler for the Heritage Classic. I know that you don't see it, but I think that the NHL needs to find different ways because of that, because of what Andrew Raycroft.
They need to find ways to make money.
Yep.
And doing an outdoor game in a place without a lot of seats is not going to accomplish that. So that's why it's not even on the radar.
Yep.
The thing in Tahoe last year was pandemic specific.
If you can find a way to do it, yeah.
In 5 years, you're onto something, Kev. But until the PA is on 50-50 footing with the owners again, in terms of HRR and all that, they're gonna be putting these things in. Like Lumen Field has to happen in the next 2 years. Like you have to capitalize. Like Seattle, I think we're looking at a team that's probably taking a longer approach to try and build a team. So you got to find a way to capitalize on the newness of that team, even as early as next year.
Yes, and of course, Lumen Field is very well known for its crowd noise with Seahawks games, and so that's something that they can try and build a storyline around. And of course, the geographic rivalry, and you'll have no problem selling all the seats. But yeah, the whole point of the outdoor games is, while a novelty for the host city, much like an all-star game, it's a cash cow for the league, and they need this more than ever. That's why the Parliament Hill idea in Ottawa never happened, because you need that gate revenue from people buying tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have one in Minnesota, you can, and it's cold in Winnipeg.
They hosted one in Saskatchewan, Kev, 2 years ago.
But that's the thing; they've already had outdoor games in Winnipeg and Regina and Edmonton, and
they haven't had one in Winnipeg. They haven't had one specifically in Winnipeg. They had one in Regina, but they haven't had one.
Oh, they did. They did. Yeah, they had one against the Oilers there.
Oh, they did.
I don't remember what year, but yeah, they did have one at IG Field, and then the one in Regina was with the
Flames.
The Jets.
I believe the only Canadian team that hasn't hosted. Actually, has Toronto, quote unquote, hosted a one?
No. Yeah, the Centennial Classic. They had that one in the 2017, I believe, at BMO Field against Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just Montreal that has not hosted an outdoor game. They've been in a bunch of them, but they have not hosted one.
When did they do the? When was it at the Big House?
That was 2014, I think.
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So 2017 was the NHL Centennial Classic, which was at BMO Field in Toronto. Leafs versus Wings. Yeah. And then the Detroit Winter Classic.
It was January 1st, 2014, I believe that one was.
Yes.
Put off a year because of the lockout. It was supposed to happen actually a year earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
But Montreal's the only team that hasn't hosted, and that's because McGill is not big enough and the Big O is not good enough.
The Big O is not. It's condemned in the winter. I mean, you can't have events in there.
You can't have event. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the problem with Montreal is there's no suitable site to host one. I mean, there's the stadium that CF Montreal plays in their Stade Saputo, I think is what it's called, but
not big enough.
It's smaller than Molson Stadium there. So yeah, that's an issue for the Habs, and they've been in lots of outdoor games as it is. So I don't think that's high on the list of the NHL events department. But you have to think that they're eyeing a Canucks Kraken Lumen Field game here at some point.
Oh yeah. as well as maybe even. Unfortunately, I don't think it again as much as this would fall in under a lot of what you're looking for there, Kev, in Vegas as well. But I think you right on the strip. But that again, that'll come once the hockey related revenue is back on stable footing. So I think it's literally we're going back to Buffalo. You bet you could still sell out that place if it's especially if they can win the lottery and get like a Shane Wright and start building with Power and Wright and Cozens and Darlene. I think you could start seeing a little bit of selling the hope there again. Trying to think where else they could go here. Go play go to Nashville. Go play in the Tennessee Titans stadium.
Oh,
Smashville
that place is
would be
dump.
awesome.
It's a dump. They need to fix that thing. That thing is the McMahon Stadium of the NFL,
which is still probably better than most a lot. So, but
yeah, I think it would work there.
Honestly, who cares about whether or not it's like fully up to whatever, or hell, go to the new Dallas stadium. Make it AT&T Stadium.
One of the things I did like about this Winter Classic is I do love it in a baseball stadium. It just has a different feel. When it was a Wrigley Field,
it doesn't feel so like just like everyone's too far away in football stadiums.
Yeah. Anyway, great ideas, but let's leave it there.
Tyler is muted.
Tyler is muted.
And that's the thing with the Seahawks stadium is the way that's designed is the seats are closer than some of these other NFL stadiums.
Because they're doing it at Tim Hortons. They're doing Toronto and Buffalo at Tim Hortons Field. Well, that's the same thing, right? The seats are there.
Yeah.
That's the reputation of Hamilton.
I'm with you though, Kevin. I think even just looking at it on TV, it's more visually appealing in a baseball stadium than it is in a football stadium. There's more unique designs to the baseball stadiums than there are the football stadiums.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, if I could get I need a cane. Someone get me a cane. But in the olden days, when the rinks were so unique, like the Colisée in Quebec, the Memorial Auditorium, even the Corral, like just the sound, how the puck bounced off the boards.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were large, some were small. I miss those days. Sometimes I miss that. Anyway.
Okay, Boomer.
Yeah.
You got to promote the pig and puck contest here, or
yeah, we will. Pig and puck contest with.
By the way, Kira says amen. So that.
Pig and puck contest and at the Pig and Duke here in Calgary. They have two locations: 12th Ave and 12th Street Southwest, and 4th Ave and 4th Street Southwest. Go there, sign up for the Pig and Puck contest, get game day specials. And to watch Calgary Flames games, Vancouver Canucks games, any hockey games. It's the best sports pub in Calgary, and you can enter to win tickets to what is currently scheduled as the April 23rd game between the Vancouver Canucks and Calgary Flames, where you would get to go to the game with Devin, myself, and Chris. And if you want extra entries into that, you can retweet any of our episodes, any of our game recaps, any of our pod clips to get an entry into that contest, as well as you can get 3 extra entries if you DM us at podcast_hockey, the word of the week, which we will make as change, because it's a new year and change is coming.
Change. So it's change. Okay.
Change, yes.
All right. There we go. So change, do that, send the message, our pod clips, our news packs. The news packs are back. I did one today. They'll be back every week, every day, 3 o'clock Pacific, 3 or 4 o'clock Pacific. I do them, post them out. Usually just in podcast format. You don't need to see my ugly mug. Anyway, but that is that. So we will be back for another podcast. We'll be back with the newscap tomorrow. We've got some other announcements coming. So like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, enemies, dogs, cats. Tell everybody. Yeah. Anyway, how do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at tnoble, TNOBLE.
And Christian Schneids, SCHNAIDZ on most social medias. Devin Gordhouse09. I'm KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. Thanks, everyone, and we will be back very soon, and we will talk to you all also very soon. Bye for now.